Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this evening's episode. The title is All for One or One for All. And I wanted to speak about this idea of open systems and closed systems and how really human beings, when it comes to relationships with matter and the world, and relationships with the immaterial viewing of matter, through the division of an unknown mind with a known body, there is an inner realm and an outer realm, and we can say that there is a phenomena that a system where song's too loud. That's okay. Okay, let me see. The moment is being considered like this. When we look at any moment a being exists in, we notice there is an objective component, which means the object component. What is an object about the moment? We notice it is a body, a biological body. That is a very complex system on its own, but the biological body is also in a world. So when we wonder about how objects are alive, we are introduced to systems within systems. Now, if we were to wonder what else is the moment made of, I mean, I noticed the objects, I found my body, I found the world I'm walking in, you know, I found the senses. But what else is another movement, something that can be systemized? And it is imagination. It is the language that moves behind our eyes, in which we are a character in a story. So pretty much before diving into how I'm communicating the idea of systems here, there's an inner realm, outer realm. The subjective component to the moment is the inner realms. How we are a subject is the inner realms. What is moving objects? It is their inner realms. Why do people communicate? It's because the inner realm wants to get out to the outer realm. Why do people, for example, their ability changes in the outer realms? Because something from the outer realms has gotten to their inner realms. So if we were to wonder about the human being and the psyche as being a communication between the inner and outer, pretty much from within you can go without, from without you can go within. So I would call this an inner system, an inner subjective system, and an outer objective system. Okay, now we've got the chessboard. So, what is the difference between a closed and open system? And if we were to even look at a system, what it is. A system is where something leads to something else, but there is a boundary. It's as if we can know it's a system because we have found its edge, we have found how it's contained. Therefore, if there was, technically we couldn't use the word system if we couldn't find some sort of linear correlation of events leading to other events. That means we created a system, but this system did nothing. Imagine we created the most advanced technological system, and this technological system, it could have worked. It's the most advanced, but we didn't use it. So technically, a system is like, you can say, like a person who doesn't do anything is equivalent to a statue. So a system that doesn't lead anywhere is equivalent to a non-system. You know, or I don't know, maybe it's termed fixed system or whatnot. But anyways, so an open system can get influenced. The system can change. But the closed system is like how part of a changing system has decided not change to itself. To even fathom a closed system is kind of it's kind of impossible to, not impossible, but it's theoretically possible because everything is interconnected, in a sense where there was this very interesting quote ascribed to Da Vinci where he says, to develop a complete mind, study the science of art. Study the art of science. Learn to see. Realize how everything is connected to everything else. The potential interconnectivity of everything and nothing makes the closed system in some sense impossible to consider. That means it would be, for a living organism, I think it's impossible to be in a closed system. Maybe for a machine, but even that machine over time will degrade and the its positioning will change. That means the only way we can have a closed system is if we are considering a counter dimension to an open system. That means if we are inside the open system, that side of the coin, to fathom the closed system is not possible from the side of the coin we're on, for example. Now, I did a bit of research for this episode, and I found something that I want to read for the audience. It's something that pretty much, when we look in this life, everything can be, knowledge is a system, you can say. You know, it's an awareness to a system. Even a person, let's say there is no knowledge, nothing, there's no even language, still that is survival is a sort of system. So everything in this world can be seen as a system, but the thing I'm going to read for you is suggesting what was there before the systems theory, just that human beings began thinking about things like systems. Something I should have probably done at the beginning. Just hold on, guys. Okay. There we go. Because that's the thing about words. Words are like multidimensional beings. They have different parallel universes of how they can be seen. So I want to read the different ways the idea of the system can be understood. And here I looked it up in on dictionary.com. So a system, first off, before I get into what was there before systems theory, just to have this be set into the stone of the talk. A system is a noun. A set of things working together as parts of a mechanism or an interconnecting network. A set of organs. Okay, a set of principles or procedures according to which something is done, an organized scheme or a method. Where else do we have the system? The prevailing political or social order, especially when regarded as oppressive and intransigent. And in music, a set of staves and a musical score joined by a brace. Well, isn't that great? You know. So yeah, you can say it is the whole. It's like a collective effort of individual components. That means if you want to be healthy, you got to be aware of the biological system. If you want to succeed in society, you got to be aware of the social system. Even if a person wants to surpass the conditioning of their childhood, you have to find a moment where you can notice a sort of systematic approach. Because here's the thing, in Greek mythology they would say there's chaos, then there's order. The world started from chaos, this is order. So technically consciousness is the systematic approach, in a way. It's when we were individual enough to notice everything happening together. That's where I would say the true, I feel the idea of a system arose. But consciously. But anyways, this is what I'm going to read for you. It's from systems theory. It says systems theory is concerned with the interaction among systems. Systems theory was well along in replacing psychodynamic theory in 1960s as the main paradigm for social work practice, and continues as a dominant idea with human services, which began to emerge as a separate profession in the 1960s. There we go. This is psychodynamic theory. Pretty much before Carl Jung, like right before Carl Jung, Freud had come up with the idea of the id, ego, and the superego. You can say we were comprehending the system from inside, from the inner realms to the outer realms. Systems theory was from the outer realms. We started comprehending systems of the inner. I would say it like that. Anyways, that was the thing I wanted to read. Got that out of the way. Now, why am I talking about systems, and why did I also name why did I name the title All for One, One for All? I feel the system of language is dualistic. Whatever kind of system there is in the world, the system that the human being uses to comprehend things is very close to the yin-yang symbol. This means that there's two components, two dimensions that must be perceived in every system, every moving system. How we go up the mountain, all for one, and how we come down the mountain, one for all. Imagine there was a system where human beings were raised, just children all around the world. They were raised feeling community first, then personality. That means we created a sort of culture where people who went towards community development, they were praised. That means there's something, for example, in Japan, there is this astonished me when I heard this, that evidently children, they, for what is it, like 12 years of the life of the child, they don't believe the child, I don't know if it's 12 years, but the child, or maybe it's 5 years, the child it is not taught, is not filled with information. That means children are born in you can say, in certain parts of the world, treated as containers, like empty glasses in the educational systems. Oh my God, an empty glass, let me just hold it still, tell the child to just sit still and not explore its own intelligence, and pour the information in it. But before, I would say, in Japan, the system was to develop the character, then to bring the information. Because if you don't have the character, then the information becomes useless. There's nothing to hold it. So first the hands need to be prepared, then the lifting, heavy lifting can begin. Right? So it's as if I would say in some cultures, children do not do strength training, character strength training, and then they're just given weight. Do you know? And what's even more tragic is that children do not wonder truly why they need information. That means a lot of people may have an opinion on what kind of knowledge, but how many people have truly wondered, why should I even know anything in this world? Why should I care? If we're all a set of just material, if we're just all atomic existence, why should existence care to experience precisely or at more of an advanced state? Do you know this all for one, one for all is like a perfect, it was a synchronicity. And of course, the term "all for one, one for all," it's associated with the again, three musketeers. I forget their names, but three human beings who realized that together their abilities increase and their defenses increase when they all care for one another. You see, if human beings all work together, yay, you know, it's like the three musketeers are fighting alongside one another. But if the three musketeers are fighting and one of them can't see his back and the other is attacking, like three musketeers, literally, you could totally tell they were great warriors because they completely clear their back. And it's in sword's range. That means imagine these three musketeers being surrounded by, I don't know, like 20 people, and the most perfect strategy where they don't get hit from the back is they become a triangle, you know? Something else, there was more to actually what I wanted to specifically read. So about systems theory again. It says the basic idea behind systems theory is one thing affects another. We got over that. Events and existence does not occur in a vacuum, but in relation to changing circumstances. Excuse the additional noises. And the last part of it says systems are dynamic and paradoxically try to retain their integrity while adapting to the inevitable change. First of all, a paradox requires a vacuum, but a vacuum cannot be comprehended, or even the concept cannot exist unless there were moving things first, you know, to even fathom, to even create the word vacuum in association to something. You can say it's just mass cause and effect. Pretty much a person throws a bowling ball and it hits the pins. Now you're wondering about everything being a sort of bowling ball set into motion, and systems based on the conscious viewer are defined. That means what could to someone be a great system, to someone could be a bad system. What to one dimension is like the greatest technology, in another dimension might be nothing. There was a scene in Dragon's Den, I believe, that show. Very cool show. On that show, there came this entrepreneur. He was pitching his idea. Then the dragons, one of them who was very money focused, he looks at him and he's like, "What's up with your evaluation? Why should I accept this evaluation you have for your company? Like, how did you get to this evaluation?" And the person, the entrepreneur, unlike all the other entrepreneurs, is smart. He's actually thought about the situation. And he says, if me and you were here and you had a bar of gold in your hand and I had a hamburger in my hand, you would have more value. But if me and you were stuck on an island, my hamburger would be more valuable than your bar of gold. So value is subjective. And all the dragons laugh, even though none of them invested, if I remember correctly. Let us say in any system, we bring in the three musketeers. We wonder about how is it one for all, and how is it all for one? When it's all for, and believe it or not, deduction and induction, I believe that's the term. Pretty much what Sherlock Holmes was doing in the movies is this. He was pretty much playing basketball between the microcosm and macrocosm realities. What I mean by micro and macro, that means he was seeing it from being a small part of the system, being an individual as part of a collective, and then wondering what the collective perceives, how the collective perceives its individual parts. So if we can build a civilization where this one for all and all for one view is incorporated, it would mean that first we establish that there is a possibility of a collective. Right now, I'm pretty sure there's so many human beings on this planet who feel it's not even possible to work things out. It's like, yeah, we've made too many mistakes. You know, the ship is like halfway in the water. What are we going to do? And I'll tell you, we use the other half to build a sky city. We start building an airplane on the half of a ship that is in some sense sinking. Do you know that feeling of not family, not friendship, not even anything, even like camaraderie. I would just say, like being comrades on the same battlefield, I would just say it is loyalty to the greater efficient truth of the collective. That means the species has to find a state that every human being can simply enter a sort of mindset where the collective, the one for all and all for one thing is possible. That means the individual has a relationship with the whole system. An individual part of the system has a relationship with the whole system. And the whole system has a relationship with the individual, and it's so fractal. It's so fractal that it's like the big and the small. The big is another small. The small of something bigger. And the small is the big of something smaller. Like I'm telling you, it's like this strange thing, and it's I can't tell if it's language, it's duality that is causing us to be left in this strange dichotomy of a strategy. It's as if duality is in the room, we can't ignore it. At the same time, the room is much bigger than duality. There's a saying, they say, the easiest way to get rid of an enemy is to make them your friend. And I heard this when I was young, and I will tell you, this sentence was very, very heavy. Not heavy, it took me a while to open it up, like a gift that takes maybe 6 years to open. And then I understood what it means is no one is ever an enemy if you can be friends. If you can find a friendly state, then the enemy is in a different parallel universe, you know? You see, there are two options for a human being. Either we physically change the outer realms, or we non-physically change ourselves, which is the inner realm. That means you can either change yourself or you can physically change the world. Now, usually in most, you would say schools, because here's the thing, if a person, or I would say it even this way, if a person sees enlightenment like a school, then they have no responsibility. The students in the classroom, they can play around, make jokes and all of this, because it's not their responsibility what happens outside of their free will, you know, their sphere of awareness and free will, right? So that's the issue of seeing life as a school. It doesn't bring that outer realm responsibility. It makes you feel you have all the time in the world, you know, but on the outer realms we don't. But if we saw it as a battlefield, literally the attention, think of someone in a classroom, you know, at the back of class paying attention, and one where literally your attention has to be to the whole system. I don't know what greater knowledge can exist than seeing what's going on overall. That means a bird can sit on a branch and be like, yo, I'm an expert, I know this, you know, I know everything about this. And it's like the gods are laughing, if there were any, you know. So it's like, it's a situation where once the attention attains an experiential responsibility for its own presence, that means people may have told you be responsible for, I don't know, even the world environment, but to be responsible for your energy and what is happening to this energy in a world where everybody interprets it from scratch. That means there is no knowledge. Everybody starts from not knowing. And then they go to the peak of knowledge only to realize they know more. The bigger the landscape becomes, the more we don't know. So the bird has to go towards the sky and look at the whole forest, right? And those are the advanced communicators, you know. And if those beings who are from the sky looking, if the bird is in the sky looking, if the bird chooses to come down again after being in the sky, then you can say those are pilots of consciousness. Who said we can't pilot our attention as the unknown moving the known? As far as I'm concerned, if I really want to be honest with myself, I don't know. I don't know that I don't know. Do you see where we're left as human beings? It's like, either it's a domino effect of reasoning, you know, or it's a causal position that never moved. That means we think the cause becomes the effect, but what if the cause doesn't become the effect? The cause is not temporary, but its effect is. The cause of intelligence could be beyond, if for metaphor's sake and example's sake, like it's as if, like, imagine all of human knowledge, and you go and attain the greatest human knowledge. Imagine it's still in the 2 dimensions. What do we do with the 3 dimensions? What do we do with all those dimensions where everything we have branded and become certain of ink on the page, it can become totally meaningless and have a totally different meaning, right? And we don't even have the maturity to realize everything in this world, in some sense, if you look at the forces stretching from night and day, from good and bad, you know, from matter and space, like you can totally see, like, it's like double-edged. We are double-edged beings, or we are beings with double-edged minds, oscillating between being an inanimate individualism and being an animate collectivity, dynamic collectivity, a movement, right? Because we can say, let's say a person uses a system, right? You create a system. The first question that should be asked from anybody who creates any system is why? Why did you create the system, right? I shouldn't say why. Why is the system here? That's a better way of saying it. Why is the system of an unknown experiential intelligence moving as a known existence happening? Like, you know, why was this system set into motion? This is why, for me, I'll be honest, in 2013, I was considering, literally, I could see a parallel universe where I was living a life like a monk. Like, literally, I had forgotten the world, I had gone, and it's like all I needed was a pen and paper, and I could go and live in like a very simple life, very incredibly so passive that karma's like, all right, this dude's too chill. Like, karma's like, this person's so non-dualistic right now, I don't even know how to give the karma, you know. The anger of the lords of karma, I would poetically say, is silence. The joy of the lords of karma is laughter. That means, this is something strange I've said in my talks, that the lords of karma, they don't speak, they either laugh or they are silent. The laughter is an implication that truth has surprised the bringer of it. That means we don't think about it, of course, but imagine it, like from the religious lens, like a person's like, what if God is like watching all human life, for example, you know? From the theological view, it's like, what if God is watching all of life, and Uh, and God's like, oh my God, I didn't expect my creation to do this. What? This is like surprising. Do you know what I mean? And you know, from a secular view, I could say it's true. In the outer realms, the secular lens looks at the theological lens and laughs as the Lord of Karma. The theological lens looks at the secular lens and is silent. And it's just phenomenal. I mean, let's just for a moment have the idea of a system evaporate before it rains again, and just for a moment just fathom all analysis is observation. All that beings can do is observe. Not all they can do, but it's like every being, it starts from the observer. That means if you're listening to my talk, this talk right now, these sounds are entering your ear, you're hearing something. This is because of the observer you are, and that observer within is unknown, and everybody knows this deep down. It's unknown, you know. Because if everything was known, we would have no reason to do anything. You have to keep a part of the game. Like, here's the thing, it's not wrong to plan ahead, but it's wrong to always plan ahead. Why? Because sometimes you gotta get more information. That means you plan to a certain level, you implement a strategy, but the strategy is the hope is for the strategy to be conscious. That means the strategy comes to a problem and then wonders about itself in accordance to the problem, and then adds another strategy. It's kind of like saying an inventor was challenged to create the greatest invention. And all the inventors made an invention and their coolest inventions, and imagine all the inventors in the world gathered and they showed off their inventions, you know. The greatest inventions, mind-boggling things. But there was one inventor who got the prize. And people wondered, why did this inventor get the prize? Everybody got shocked when this last inventor revealed his invention. His invention was an invention that endlessly made different types of inventions. That is the type of advanced civilization we want. Not an advanced civilization that we, like its parents, human beings, are just carrying it. It's like we're trying to raise an advanced civilization. A civilization that self-sustains itself to a point where human beings don't have to be the same amount of everything a person does at their job. You could literally be doing it with a totally different language, totally different location, in a totally different ideology coloring. Right? So what I'm saying is, on some level in the outer realms, just atoms are moving in space. Lovely. Right? In the inner realms, how these atoms are observed simulates, is linked. You know, I created this thing. Hopefully one day this would be this idea I developed, this word I coined. I hope it enters the English language, this idea. It's called letter linking. And letter linking means that when you look at in the language, you can find two words where either the last letter of that word is the same as the first letter of another word. Do you see? Whenever this is possible, the two words can be letter linked, letter-linked. That's what I term it. You know. So this letter linking, an example would be like pastime. Just as one word, the T of time and the T of past, they linked. You know, think of like, what is it like? We in the, what was that animation? The Dragon Ball Z. You know, in that there were two characters who could fuse. You know, so we can call it letter linking, letter fusion. You know. We can even say some words that if we add a letter, they become superior. Like these are sane words, you know. You know, like. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that one thing is in common. Do you know? That means in the middle of an object trying to find subjects and a subject trying to be an object, right there, we're in a revolving door of different degrees of one point of being. And so we're like, what is the truth, while we're inside a revolving door, and we're suddenly realizing the door will remain as long as that center pole of the revolving door is there. So unless we get to the center, we will be spinning around ourselves, you know. I feel it's when it comes to even like practices of qigong, tai chi, that's one of the most important things. You're trying to get to know your energy as it being whatever way it comes across to you sensationally, and you discover your relationship with the universal sector. So any human being who has just gone in nature, for example, sat down and felt like the whole moment, that is you discovering your universal energetic body the moment an idea hasn't divided and conquered the moment into a linguistic simulation. You know what's fascinating? I don't think even many people know this. The image you have of yourself in your inner realms dictates the energy you can have. That means if a person, let's say you have to do a lot of work, for example, let's say you have to lift a huge weight. Let's say we are 8 billion human beings and we want to not literally lift our weight as humanity. Lift our own weight as one species, right? It means if you are on this planet and the person's like just before the task of the advanced civilization, I mean, right now I'm just talking about it, you know, but I'm pretty sure probably like in 200 years, suddenly it's gonna click and people are gonna start rushing, you know. If you, okay, I'll give a simpler example. Let's say you have a soccer ball and you're on a soccer field for the first time, and you are one person with the soccer ball and there is, let's say, 10 people and there's a goal. Let's say you're the I'll give it a next level metaphor. Let's say you're a goalkeeper, okay, and you have no teammates in a soccer game. That means it's an unfair soccer game. It's one goalkeeper against like a whole team, but that one goalkeeper has the soccer ball first. You know, that means imagine one side of the field, there's one goalkeeper. The goalkeeper is starting with the ball at the, what do you call it, at the edge of the field. Now, this person in the middle of the soccer field has to make a choice. If the person feels, I can't do this, there's too many people, I can't dribble the ball, I can't find the strategy, and the person just but says, I gotta try anyways, and the person just goes in, done. Do you know? And let's say, guys, this was like, it was kind of like a riddle, the whole thing, the thing, in the sense that it's like there were no rules. I mean, I can't say there were no rules, but like, but anyways, I'm saying, or the person could be like, I don't know if I can fail or not. That means the same way people don't know if they can succeed, the same way you don't know if you're gonna fail or not, you know? So the person has to start in the inner realms having already seen something real about their own victory, and then the motivation can never be taken away. And I can tell you, it can totally be done, right? You can totally dribble a team and shoot, do you know? But it's all about your speed and your aim. That's it. That means with good speed and good aim, anybody can do anything. The whole point of the example is just to say, I don't know, the person can't dribble a whole team, but he can dribble the players one by one. You can dribble one person, you can't dribble the whole team. So if the person somehow saves his energy and with some sort of skills slowly out skills them, I'm diving into this metaphor too deeply. Anyways, if in the inner realms you can see it done, it can be done in the outer realms. That's pretty much every inventor's life story. Something behind their eyes stepped out of their eyes. As if human beings are creatures that can notice the whole system, notice their individual, and can build something with this. You can say in society, a person can close their system to the world. You can even say a system is an event, is a giant event, and the smaller events taking place are pretty much really how the system is happening. The biggest error of the human mind can also be to have seen cause and effect separate from one another. That means it's like people have wondered if the world is true, or if it's a simulation, it's untrue, if it's true or false. But we have never wondered if we are the illusion. That means we think people have wondered if the world can be an illusion. Like the yogis were like, oh my God, get out of samsara, get out of this endless cycle of reincarnation. Don't have material desires, But could it be that it wasn't the world that had to change? The world is changing beyond our will. It's not our will that's changing the world. When I say world, I mean like the whole cosmos. So man's free will can only change himself. People have never actually known how they've changed the world. They have only changed themselves. They've only known how they have changed. That means, let's say a player dribbles all the players, even dribbles the goalkeeper and scores. Now the goalkeeper's talking to that player, right? And it's like, how do you do it? And even the player doesn't know. One of the most refreshing feelings, and because we're a habitual creature, it is hard to perhaps have it be a constant thing. But some of the most liberating moments in my life have been the unknown. That means some of the most scariest moments of my life, I didn't know what was going to happen, but some of the most divine and I would say deepest moments of my life were just meeting the unknown. Yeah, the unknown is alive. Now think of how many centuries need to go by until we realize that again. That means the one thing the human being chasing knowledge could never, like it was like the thing missing out of the picture in the blind spot. We are the unknown. That we think that its normality means what is observable is, observable, what is observed and agreed on. Like the world is a story, and we are like I want to say subatomic stories. We're sub-eventum in eventum. We are sub-stories in a giant story that is beyond our ability to even fathom the story. That means this may be hard to believe, but neither in Star Wars, neither the, what do you call it? The Jedis with the green and blue lightsabers were correct. Green, blue, and purple. Those weren't correct, and neither the red lightsabers were correct. Because they had not integrated the opposite. They were resisting the opposite. You see, is it better to... It's exactly like this. Civilization advances when chaos and order, like wings of a bird, flap at the same time. But if one wing flaps quicker than the other, or the other wing flaps quicker than the other, the bird's gonna like hit everything, It's like, what is this bird doing? This bird hasn't realized it has to symmetrically fly. I feel we have been caged by language that was way more comfortable than remaining explorers in the unknown. I feel it is way more healthier on this planet to be an unknown person and an unknown in an unknown world. That way the relationships of knowledge are endlessly emerging. You see, knowledge is just noticing. And people don't notice this. How many people wonder about their attention as a human being, there a concentration as like a lightsaber. What if concentration was like everybody's lightsaber? You know, single pointedness of mind. You know, your attention is the life force, literally. It's like it doesn't get more alive than that. It's like the person's like, how do I know existence is here? Because I'm experiencing it. How do I know I'm experiencing existence? Because existence is here. And the person's like, WTF, what is this loop we have knowledge has built for philosophers? It's like how a philosopher has not broken the barricades yet. You know, I'll tell you, this is the fastest way to a civilization's inner extinction. Hide the unknown. Because the unknown is the eternal declaration of freedom. It's the only reason the word hope exists in the English language. That means hope lives in the unknown. Dreams, ambitions, our advancements, they all live in the unknown. They are children of the unknown. It's us who have worn it's as if we have worn language and stopped breathing as a multidimensional being. And it's hard to watch, you know. For me, it was like, this was what I would say, there is ordered realizations, there is ordered insight, but there is also chaotic insight. I will tell you, the chaos is as deep as order, even deeper. That means in chaotic dimensions, there is no law. When there is no law, it's literally like one cup of water in front of clean water in an island of thirsty people. Literally, you don't, it's as if some things you touch, you lose. The moment you enter the game, you lose, right? Because there's literally too many people fighting for that, you know? So it has to be through, like, you gotta evoke the 3 dimensions, you know, as if like, here's I'll tell you how to get rid of anger like a scientist, okay? So scientifically, we have 3 dimensions we consider in space, and then we have the 4th dimension of time. And the reason we have the 4th dimension of time, because a person went back to the same space. The person was at one location, went to location, the person was at location A, went to location B, then came back to location A. Then they're like, oh my God, this is not the same space as yesterday when I was standing in this space. So time is the additional dimension that separates the 3-dimensional from itself for a conscious viewer in the system. Right? So an angry person cannot notice the dimension of time. An angry person has forgotten the 4th dimension. In the sense that the anger can be reserved, the person can come back later and with a totally different energetic evocation wield the moment. You see, one of the most liberating feelings is when you realize not the lies the world has told you, the lies you have told yourself. There is nothing more liberating than that, literally. Because then the person's like, oh my God, I've been putting all my attention in my whole lifetime on a self that wasn't me. Because how can in a world so vast and unknown we have a fixed declaration of truth and play along with it? It's as if it's like sometimes we can say even disbelief falls into this as much as belief. A disbelief is a belief on a belief. And therefore the believers, I would say, and the disbelievers, they have the same level of sight. They're 2 sides of a coin. This is something where I should probably leave it for another episode, but do you know there are also so many hollow philosophies active in civilization? That means there are ideologies that care for the world, and there are ideologies that don't care for the world, they care for themselves. And when these ideological systems get a hold of the person, it's literally like the environment you're in defines you. So through community, ideology is being spoon-fed in the back from the behind, right? And not that this is a bad thing, because this is the thing about life. If you could handle things in a good way, if you could pilot well, it's never a bad flight. That means you can be a human being, and being like, how dare the concept of bad exist when my perception is multidimensional? Bad is just the interpretation of one of the dimensions, you know. And you know how many people are not conscious of the language they generate? We put a greater than sign over emotions than the type of language which is a literal wave you're giving off to the world. That means if a person starts vocalizing, oh my God, nothing works for me, you know, then the person's never going to realize it could have always worked. And that's the nature of life. The world is working. You know what's the hardest worker on the planet? The heart of the person. I was like, look at me sleeping at night, being in a state of deep sleep where it's like I'm not even here, but my heart is still working hard, you know? And so it's as if we need to honor the endless effort of the biology to keep us here, for us to use what the biology is providing, do you know? That means you can have a view that your atomic existence is at the command of one direct experience. You see, the issue is people feel, what am I gonna be if there was no language? I will tell you, an advanced communicator that is not comfortable with silence and stillness cannot see the, I would say, sometimes life takes a person to moments where they don't know their own strength, or their own system of preservation breaks. That can happen. I mean, it happens like when we sleep, it happens without us freaking out about it. You know, it's hilarious. It's like we don't get offended when our whole consciousness kind of like, you know, slips into deep sleep. But we get offended if a person says a language that's not familiar to our way that we have accepted language. If you don't have patience with yourself, you won't have patience with the world. If you don't have patience with the world, you'll never understand why it's important to have patience with the self. You know, so many people, I would say, I could say in our modern times, they have goodwill, great will, compassion. They want to help, you know. We have so many people on the planet who are keeping the protector psychological algorithm alive, you know. But which is better, to work with a helmet at a construction site or not to work with a helmet? That means, can the moment be consciously free and then the movement begins? That means be free before you move, then your freedom can't be lost. This is how I tackle fear, and just like the fear of my own death. Where, you know, I wonder, okay, like human beings are fragile, the world can move in any direction. It's gonna, like, even whatever we do in this life, so many things are gonna be done in the future that are gonna keep changing the system. So it's an endlessly updating system, you know, regardless of what we do. You know, regardless of how much of it remains human, how much of it becomes cyber, how much of it becomes even just pure mechanical, you know. That means, imagine in the future in a school with robot children and a robot teacher, in history books they're reading how they were humans once upon a time. Can you imagine that in the future? Wow, guys, this talk inspired a completely new chapter for my science fiction. The legacy of tech terror. Anyways, so let's go back to the idea of a system. There is something about just creating inefficient systems that's nice to watch. You know, there was a scene in the movie, in the TV show Entourage, where Ari Gold and his wife are in the therapist's office, this, you know, golfer therapist's office, and Ari's wife and the therapist, they corner Ari to kind of be honest in the moment of why he's making an important giant business decision, you know. And there's a scene where the wife and the therapist are misinterpreting Ari, the main character there, and the character gives a big speech, just this profound speech, kind of clearing everything up. Then at the end he says, the reason I want to make this decision, business decision, big important business decision in the storyline of the show, is because it's good business. That's how he said it, you know. You know, like as if it just works well, right? And if we can have a fascination of just the mind of creatures on efficiency, just trying to, it's like, don't seek the spirit of you know, the gods of the old. Seek the spirit of exploration, the ultimate exploration. All of our knowledge depends on us staying true how the past defined the human. If the human being or the life form has a totally different way where the form, the known shaped with design form, and the unknown life, like we could totally be wrong as a species. Our whole language is like, after some point somebody was like, yo, we can name objects, bro. You know, and the whole species was like, no way, start naming everything. It was like a fun time. They were celebrating. Oh my God, we're gonna name this, I don't know, table. Yeah, you know. So I'm like, it's something we have done that we are treating as if we are, and wondering why reality feels like a simulation. There we go. I want to bring in an idea from a very important philosopher, Heidegger. And Heidegger, this philosopher, in wondering about how things are, like how is everything being, he divided it into, and excuse me, these are German words, I don't know how well I can say it, existenz, facticity, verfallen. Yeah. Let me see if there's Google images for this stuff. Okay, I found a diagram, but I think it's in Turkish. Pretty much, the terms he had was pretty much, I looked at it, his definition, he had specific definitions for those three terms, but pretty much what he has done is he's seen being in regards to getting influence from the past, present, and future, right? So when he says existence, that's the present. That means what is here now, you know? When he says, what's the term here he's used? Let me find the page again. There we go. Facticity. Facticity is the past. It's as if like how things are is based on how people said it before, how people behaved before, how people accepted before you, you know. And then when it comes to looking at being is like right on the spot, it's being generated. It's kind of like, for example, you see it in the legends of you know, legendary like love stories and whatnot written throughout history, you know, where it was like the moment those two beings shared had nothing to do with how they were before, had nothing to do with who they were going to be in the future. It was like that moment was like existence. So so that's the thing, right? So it was like purely in the present. Now when he says "ver fallen," you know, I think where we fall to next, I think was the way he meant it, but these have specific things where I recommend people to specifically look up their just Google Heidegger's being. And so then there is the future, where how things are not based on who we were yesterday. It's not based on who we are today. It's based on who we can be. So that means if you were a philosopher wondering how are things being, it's as if you're seeing where it's heading being the reason of why it's here. So when the past wonders, why do I exist? You know, to assist the present. When the present wonders, why do I exist? So the past assists me, for then I am only left to just going towards the future. I will tell you, in an advanced civilization, maybe 1% of human consciousness will be on what happened in the past. We would be so busy becoming the future. Because right now, it's as if it's like our brains are like a network, you know? And the relaying of information in this network is slow. It's not instant. But if we somehow manage to create a civilization that has decided to honor the collective mind, you know what this honor means? This is not an honor of your ancestors. It is not the honor you hold now with pride. It is the honor to come. That means I respect my ancestors, but I respect my grandchildren a little bit more. And I hope they respect their grandchildren more than me. That means the best thing we can do is just add momentum to the system and just gracefully dismiss ourselves after some point. And we can even say the idea of empathy cannot exist if there isn't a collective being at work. That means you need a collective context to have individual components of the system to have a relationship with one another, right? So that means it's not like our heart is speaking to our brain, do you know? Or for example, like the liver is speaking to the stomach. You know what I mean? It's like it's like they work as one, right? The body's like, you know, it's not fragmented. Can you imagine if you had to like motivate your breathe your body? Do you know what I mean? Your body is just so confident that it knows what to do. You may not even know the science of how the brain works, but the body's like, I got this. You know, the body knows how to. It's like somehow the design that we find ourselves in as. Do you know what it is? It's like life can't just be complex. And it can't be just simple. And if it can't be either one of them, in a sense it means it can't be both of them. If it can't be both of them, it's the same way of saying the mind that has witnessed chaos and order, witnessed as presence of attention, not a personality in the spotlight of attention. You have moved beyond both. So you see, an advanced civilization would be like, yo, what is this artificial hope and artificial fear of doom? Like, it's extinction. It's like even though these circumstances can happen, what the species has known so far is continuity. We are masters. We are like our genes, that our self-replicating genes were like masters compared to all the other, elemental phenomena, that had developed, and was developing. So this self-replicating gene was like, let me show you how I'm going to continue. And 4.5 billion years, it wrote books on it. That's like truly an achievement. But see, imagine you had achieved everything. Imagine you had all information. That means literally schools didn't exist because everybody knew everything. Somehow, let's say, hypothetically, right? The only thing left will be play. Alan Watts had this quote, I don't know if I can remember it exactly, but he says it's like just realize work is a play and you'll always love what you do, That means it's as if like there's no such thing as a person having, I personally view as, because I have a mystical inclination, we are not language-based personalities. We are unknown moments that provide a potential for a unique evolutionary elemental opportunity to be navigated. That means it's as if it's like after the being has learned to move as an object, then you need to learn how to move as a subject. Okay, this is one thing educational systems did right. They spread at least the word of the past well, To some degree. I mean, nowadays in modern universities there seems to be a lot of errors. There's no such thing as a perfect system, but there is such a thing as a good enough system. If we can just get the educational system to be good enough, then it's like all the people, attention of the person has to move on. Imagine there was this view in the future, I just see it right now, where children on this planet were born with an honor that we can't fathom now, right? Our honor is limited to what we see. So if we see something in accordance to our perception, like I'm just saying the future generations are going to have an honor where they are not going to have the concept of idol worship and I would say idea worship. It would just be like, we are temporary opportunities of energetic movement. What should be done with this? So imagine in an advanced civilization, let's give it 600 years from now. There is no such thing as profession. There is just, you are a member of this species and a member of this universe. And in your own home, you have fallen asleep. The purpose of life in the outer realms is one word: advancing. The purpose of life in the inner realms is one word: clarity. That means these are the two, and I dare say it, why not? It's like the media has totally surpassed the themes I talk about. So I'll tell you, make the spirit of your moment have allies. In a collective system, there is no such thing as individual sight. That would be a myth. Can you imagine we connected people's brains in the future to technology? Okay, let's say 120 years from now, we had a collective, literally everybody's head was connected to one giant program. Let's call it program humanity comes about, you know? So imagine after the first, let's say 3 centuries, 300 years of living as a collective cyberspace mind, we're gonna have collective philosophy. That means a collective being is gonna, after a while, wonder, why am I individual? So when the collective being wonders, why am I individual? Technically, that means we have transcended humanhood. Mindhood still is there, but humanhood has been transcended. That means enjoy experiencing the human life. At the same time, helping build the masterpiece of that lifetime as well. For me, all the artists on this planet, they're drawing the same thing. They're drawing the future. And that's something where I have moments where, I don't know, it's, I would say maybe it's an idiosyncrasy to just me, but I have had so many moments of spontaneous celebration. But it wasn't a celebration because something happened in the outer realms. It was a celebration because, like a giant iceberg, kind of like breaking off from the rest and moving into the depth of sea, that something had changed in the inner landscape, that I felt I had wings before I was born. Wings made of geometry, made of design. That means perhaps the eyes of our eyes are beyond design. And you know what? Everybody should be a philosopher on being. Like, that's pretty much what survival is. You gotta look at the world before wondering how the world is looking at you. Because then it's become self-intimidation. Self-intimidation means when a person in their inner realms has interpreted the situation unnecessarily more overwhelming than it has to be, that they prevent their own action, you know? Like someone afraid of heights, for example. And it's not easy what I'm saying, somebody afraid of heights, and the person's like, okay, I have to cross this like pole in this movie to the other side of the cliff, right? So it's like either I'm gonna freak out the whole time, you know, that means it's like 50-50. So the person just calmly goes without the paranoia, do you know? There's something the sages would say long ago. They would say the mind is a lousy master, but it is a great servant. And then there's this other tidbit of wisdom from somewhere else in the world where they say you must serve before you command. So technically it means if their mind is mastering them, but in order for the human being to master their mind, they need to first serve their mind. When you serve your own mind, this doesn't mean you serve an idea. This doesn't mean esotericists jump off their chairs. This means for a second, feel as if language was the simulation and step out of it into silence and stillness and the neutrality of how the sky is edgeless. Think of it this way. It doesn't matter if it's an advanced civilization human beings want to build, or it's something small. We want to draw like a logo for an advanced civilization, like AC. Even Tesla's like that's a good logo, you know? Nikola Tesla. It's just that anything before you build, you must practice space. There was this Japanese show that had kind of taken the idea of magic, and they had made a whole world out of it. A world where it was the opposite, where everybody had magic and the rare people in the show didn't have magic. You know, so we can say intelligence is a sort of miracle or whatever other term you want to use. But I'm saying like there was this kind of, in the Japanese show, a type of magic in that world, in that Japanese themes universe. That show's universe, where space magic that could control space. So think of people creating space before they create what they want in the space. That means if the person wants something in their life, as if they close their eyes and they wonder, do I have the space of that journey in my being? And when you have space to move, you can easily move. That means there is this thing that sometimes I feel like it's just, this is natural, that it's like sometimes when I am asked a question, I kind of push away all the thoughts and then look at it for the first time. You know, and so I don't know how to say it, but like we are novelty incarnate. What can I say? I'm just a bunch of atoms, guys, really. What can I say? You see, life is a journey that has never happened before, so the potential can't be known until the very end. We can't know if we were good people or bad people till the last moment of manifest expression. Because we're in time and space, those are the two filters, those are the two lenses that Einstein came and made them one lens, but those are the two, you can say for traditional thought, the two lenses that are all phenomenological meaning has to abide by. That means our view on time and space suggests the space-time continuum. Now, if our view on the space-time continuum is limited because we're defining ourselves as a limited creature, then we can never know if it was limitless. That means it's as if somebody, let's say you go to a grocery store and you don't know if the grocery store is open, you pull the door doesn't open, right? And imagine somebody's like, yeah man, you experimented, the door didn't open, you know? But imagine the door after centuries, after a long time passing by, somebody was like, yo, they never tried pushing the door. They only pulled the door and they felt they could only, it was closed and the store was open, you just had to push the door, for example. That means in every moment, a person should have endless endurance to live through it. That means if there's one skill human beings need to train, is endurance. Somehow, if you can find an ability of will, that means it's like a dialogue with the origin of how attention is being existence. So technically, because the self is from the world, nobody can ever talk. Here's the thing, all language is the earth speaking or it's human beings in the earth. It can't be both, you know? So we can't say we are on earth when we are earth, when we are made elementally. But we can say we are beyond the earth if the elemental in some sense is observed. That means right now when I look at my hands, I'm like, wow, I'm looking at the periodic table right now. Do you know? so that it's like, imagine if tables became alive and started attacking humanity, and we were in a one-on-one, like humanity's last defense against tables, and the tables are like, we're gonna defeat you, you know, you guys didn't take care of us, you didn't respect us, you know, you scratched our backs, you know, in the wrong, horizontally, you know. So the table, and imagine in that moment the leader of humanity is like, we are the same. You are a table and we are the periodic table. And imagine some sort of peaceful coexistence with living tables, as in this hypothetical example. It's just because everything is interconnected, just fixed individual meaning is just concentration. Either everything is moving, and to think that something is still and static is the illusion, or everything is still and static and the world, everything is changing forever. Either we are the change or we are the changeless, if language, as far as language can be concerned. The mind is like walking through a hallway that is made of endless doorways. So every moment is like you're being in the middle of a doorway. You can look back, you can look forth, you can stay in the middle of the doorway, but eventually, you know, life moves you forth. So if we, instead of thinking we're like containers of energy and defining that as the life form, as the human being, what if we define there's no such thing as a human being, there is just consciousness, conscious emergence, the emergence of consciousness. That means it's like a river of humanity rather than individual drops playing Hunger Games to realize they're a river. Do you know? Do you know? So it's this, honestly, this situation. Where a person has to have the ability, like in video games, to from the first person view, where you can only see the hands of the video game character, to come to a like an RPG, like three kind of out of the body of the video game character view, like looking from the behind the head of the character, you know, third perspective. So in that view, if a person can do this, the person can any moment, in any situation, just stop, regardless of what emotion they have, and watch the design of the existence of the moment. The era of advanced communication means creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere have noticed that nowhere, which is coming across to them, is now here. We are obsessing over the past's continuity into the future, and I feel this is the issue. Past, present, future, body, mind, soul. It perfectly matches. The body, in some sense, can't literally, the algorithm to keep the body alive is have the past continue. The past wants to stay alive, so the body has strategy. Then we have the present. The present is like, it's like the past transforming, like a transformer. The present is the writer of the future. You can, as a strategy of human living, be like, who am I now? And you can, as a strategy of human living, be like, who will I be? Who am I truly? That means if you wanted to wonder about your true self, that means wondering if whatever potential you had, if 100% it was maxed out. That means the purpose of life, and honestly the ethos that human beings have, was for a long time surpass your limits, but now surpass your limits together. Do you see? And that efficient speed. You know, we should not fear technology. We should embrace how fast it's going to make us go. But we should also find strategies to preserve nature. And I thought that means we gotta create cities that are like, imagine you like cut an onion in half. So imagine we started building cities in concentric circles, and like so imagine like it has like, I don't know, whatever amount of concentric circles being the city, a centric model for this city, right? So the center of the city is technology. The second onion after that, the second layer, the second circle, concentric circle, is nature. So literally we have cities made of complete technological innovation, sandwiched between cities of just pure nature. So any moment a person is in a technological realm and they've had enough, they can instantly go to the natural concentric circle. Anytime they're tired of the natural, they can go to the technological. Do you know? I wish I could draw this, like the model of it. It's pretty much like a spider's web model for building a city. That means I gotta be honest, spiders came up with the most interesting way to design. I personally feel the most efficient way we can design modern cities. That means eventually on Earth, when we look at it from the sky, it's gonna be like, literally, it's gonna be like, it's gonna look phenomenal. Can you imagine if we were suddenly, like, we all were artists, we were a civilization of 8 billion artists, and we're like, yo, let's see how beautiful our planet and how artistic and how in some sense the design of it, I would say, is like from let's say this, I don't know, like human beings would constantly go to the space station, look at their artwork, go down on an Earth and constantly change it. Imagine if the planet became that sort of canvas. And honestly, in when we are on a sphere in the middle of nowhere, free will means you can choose any value system. That is it. And a person could even identify with the value system and fight other value systems, but eventually the value systems change in a changing world. So metaphysics has left to truly being the attributeless observer, that prior to what is observed is being all that what is observed can be. And poetically, we could say after that it's going to be a mesophysics era. Pretty much the best place for a theoretical physicist in the future to have as an office is a Zen monastery. For emptiness is the permission slip for imagination to animate. That means sometimes if you don't see how a system can be empty, you won't care for how it's full. You know, it's like that moment where someone doesn't know what they have until they lose it. And when they lose it, it's gone. You know, but this doesn't mean life force discontinues. It just means that the eyes have to start now learning from themselves. Who knew? In a changing world, there never were students and teachers. There was never stupid and smart people. That means if we think about it in a long enough time span, nobody can be smart. Everybody's gone. You know, and our intelligence is based on how long we continue. It's just hilarious. The world is, it's like knowledge, if you really wonder about its beginning. It's like we imagined reality and then we treated that reality to be superior than the imagination, and then we started echoing as if truth is ultimate to just 1/5. Like it's like the eyes are like, guys, I don't know if I'm ready to be the king of all experiences, you know. There's a story of this thief. This thief sees this Zen master, goes to the Zen master and says, hey, listen, I'm a thief. I've gone to all these religious ideological systems, different like ideological systems in the area, and everybody wants to change me. I don't want to change, but I don't want to be a thief. How do I do this? Right? So pretty much the guy's saying change me without changing me to the Zen master. Right? So the Zen master looks at the person, looks at the thief, and says, I'm not going to ask you to change. I don't know you. I'm not going to ask you to change. I'm going to tell you one thing though. The next time you go steal, whatever you steal, just put it down and look at it for a while. Then do whatever you want. Then the thief's like, that's it? That's it, just to look at what I'm going to steal before I steal? And the Zen master's like, yeah. That's it. Just look at it for a while. And so let's say this this thief says okay to the Zen master, and then goes. And he goes and he finds himself in some palace, like, I don't know, some ninja skills or whatever. Like, he finds himself in like an imperial palace, and there's imperial treasure, and he opens the treasure and he's about to get the treasure. And he suddenly hears the Zen master's voice. And he's like, oh yeah, okay. And he puts like this next level jewel or whatever, you know, like diamond or whatever is there. Like, he puts it on the ground. He puts this diamond, let's say. He puts the diamond there. And he just looks at it. And he's like, why did the Zen master want me to look at this? Like, what do I get from looking at this? Then the guy's looking at the rock. He's like, yeah, it's a nice diamond. Look at it. It's a beautiful diamond. I could sell it for a lot. Oh my God, no. But then the guy suddenly, while he's looking at it, he's like, oh my God, this is a rock. This is a piece of rock. A piece of stone. He realizes this whole time he has been chasing stone. He puts the thing back, leaves, and as he's leaving, with the freedom, the thief is laughing. He's just laughing. He's just laughing at for how long he dwelt in the eyes of the fool that he was too afraid to look at. He goes to the Zen master and becomes the Zen master's like, what happened? You know, and the guy's like, yo man, it worked. So that's freedom from objects, by living properly as a subject, to yourself at least. Can you imagine if the heart could speak and the person was like, on some website of global statistics, it was saying like there's depression everywhere around the world. And I'm like, can you imagine if the heart could speak? The heart would be like, yo, are you kidding me? Is this person who I've been beating for every moment endlessly sad? Like, what does that mean? Like, that mean, you know what I mean? The heart's like freaking out. The heart's like, yo, get your act together. You know, don't make my life purposeless, you know? So that means we at least owe it to our biology to explore the depths of our minds. It's not just people who work hard. Mountains have their stories too. The explorer's eyes are the purest state of mind. That's it. If there was one last thing you could say to all human beings, whoever you are in the world, where in whatever environment, world, or you know, social fabric or cultural system you have existed in, whatever kind of system you've existed in, at the end of the journey, just encourage the next wave of explorers. That's it. That means it's like life, if you just see it from the present moment, is incredibly meaningless. Like ideologically, it doesn't have meaning, because everything is one moment of existing, you know, one moment happening. But the mysteries of that which is within the being, that which from the inner realms comes to the outer realms, and from the outer realms receives the in the inner realms. You know, they spoke about trance states back in the day in certain mystical cultures, that the point of life was not per se to do the right thing. Even it wasn't, their view was a bit different even than what I'm saying. They were saying like the point of life is to find the right state of being. That means it doesn't matter what philosophy you have on it. It doesn't matter. It's like as if you're a Rubik's Cube and finding that last move that makes the Rubik's Cube complete or whatever. So a lot of metaphysics and spirituality, pretty much it's trying to solve the Rubik's Cube of why are eyes here at all? How are the eyes being here while being in it? The world becomes great the moment we realize we are. That means who's literally writing the definition of greatness in the dictionary? In dictionaries all around the world, who is writing the definition of greatness? It's a human being. So human beings experience the greatness they create. Effort. Endless effort. These two words, if you just wonder about it through the lifetime, it will open your eyes to many things, and it will remind you even how your eyes have already been opened, even though the fear of the ideology may make you feel they're closed. It's as if a soldier on the battlefield, his hand was shaking, and the general looked at the soldier and it's like, why is your hand shaking? You know, and it's like, I'm afraid, I don't know if I can do this, fight in this, if I can carry on in this space-time continuum, you know. And the general's like, how do you know? That means the easiest way, I would say, it's like literally a how to hack conversation. By just wondering about why the energy is there. That means there's moments, people I care, from the game of shadows, a rising turn to the sun, to the rising sun. You know, like nature is poetry. Literally, we write poetry because of what we see in the world. Language, even if you want to get really deep about it, is image. I would say image is superior than language. And what is superior than image is space. That means some people are like thinking about how to pilot intelligence. I would say some people are like at the destination. The pilot is already standing in the other airport. The pilot in the inner realms has already seen himself land the plane in whatever kind of terminal he's flying to, whatever airport. So from life being something to know, life is becoming like, I would say, a game where the person is wondering how to be a player in. And think of even there will come a time where metaphysics will, the word mysticism may be forgotten, may be necessary to be forgotten. That means there, as Shri Ramana Maharshi would say, there will come a time where everything one has learned will be forgotten, as if there will come an end to that which had a beginning. But that which never had a beginning can never have an end. So the mystics were pretty much trying to find cinema seats in like higher dimensions to their own physical existence, you know. You know, I could create a, you know, humorous story here. The lords of karma are looking at this person and they're like, look at this person, you know, look at how their mind and body is moving, you know. Then they're like, the lords of karma look at the person and they're like, look at this person. From the clouds, they're like, look at this person, look at how they're moving. And then suddenly the lords of karma see the soul of that person right beside the lords of karma. And the lords of karma are like, yo, how did you get here? Do you know? And the soul responds and says, I realized I was always here, you know, and now the soul is imagined with a popcorn bag watching, witnessing nature's next great step. That means it is a strange thought that we are elemental. It's a stranger thought that we can move the elemental. It's even a more stranger thought that there can be hope. So these are displays of forces that have found, it's as if the brain saw beyond the brain, and the brain's like, what do I do now? You know, and it's as if you, in the outer realms, maintain. In the outer realms, the simpler you are, the more you can navigate in complexity. In the inner realms, the duality has to do direct experience, just come down to, I don't know, presence. You know, we need freedom. But we can't know freedom unless it's a response and a system. And to conceive of a system reaching a point where it's no longer a system, no longer conditional, the word freedom will become archaic. Can you imagine? Because freedom for an individual is not freedom for the collective, if the individual is being defined by the collective. That means it's not enough to just take care of the self. The world that the self is extracting definitions from has to be attended to. We gotta pretty much build like concentric donut cities and care to remember that we are natural before we are machine. Can you imagine in the future on the walls, graffiti artists, human graffiti artists are like, wake up, you're not machines, like they're writing it on like walls or whatever. It's like, imagine there's a slogan, computers can shut down, but you cannot. Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine slogans like that in the future being written, right? you know how if freedom chooses to not associate with any sort of responsibility or some sort of effort, it would be a truth that's holding its eyes, and when the ship is like 1/3 in the water, oh my god, we have a problem, I thought it was all good until now, you know. And here's a cool view. What system holds knowledge? That means the system of knowledge is held by the system of language. The system of language is held by the system of biology, and the system of biology just being a creature without words or anything, and there was no language. Do you see? So I would say we are living in 4 worlds. We are living in 4 systems. A system where we are a knower, a system where this knower is based on the language and the story, the system of language, and then that's like a world, so system of knowledge is like the smaller world, smaller circle. Okay, system of knowledge realizes it's inside the system of language. The system of language realizes it's inside the system of nature. The system of nature realizes it's inside the system of the unknown. In what is in common in all the systems is the unknown. So the unknown is the only force that can lead knowledge to truth. So that means I have no idea how truth could be anything other than the unknown. This is why there's a hollowness, because it's like a simulation. It's like the person being like, yo, is this real life? And then it's like realizing it is, but when it comes to the mind's reality, it is multidimensional. We're like transformers. When we see something, we update. Like the transformer was like a wrecked car, then it saw a good car, then it became a better car. You know, it transformed itself to the better. So we are endlessly updating. It's not just our worlds are updating. How is it that human identity is not updating? Right? The outer realms are accelerating so fast. Technology is exponentially accelerating, as futurists command. The inner realms are not accelerating. We have found the human being in a situation where the technology is advancing, not the user of technology, and that is the only sin, is when you could have done something and you didn't. And even though that's a sin, when I say the word sin, I don't know if you don't like the word, think of it as I'm saying it mathematically. Nature, what expectations can we have? What expectations can a human being on the shoulder of a giant universe have? So to have expectations, and when they're not met, to be the person emotional, never made sense from the beginning. But this doesn't mean never to have expectations. It means to shift the model to a domain of imagery where we can still control. That means the person, let's say, maybe can't lift like I don't know, a 400 kilogram weight, but the person can lift a I don't know, let's say 100 kilogram weight or something, you know? So if the person scales down the landscape where they're extracting their value system, that simplicity doesn't have the additional layers of information that create the turbulence. So when you pilot as a multidimensional being, especially in a civilization where everybody thinks they're just one thing, the easiest way is kind of like how you walk in a museum. Anybody who has ever walked in a museum is enlightened. A museum, art gallery, whatever. If you've walked somewhere where you could enjoy the moment without touching the moment, you could watch the moment and still experience it. It's as if what identity can multidimensional travelers and that framework have? It's like they ask the person, are you a good person and bad person? The person's like, in what dimension? In what parallel universe? I don't know. There's endless parallel ways where there could be in parallel universes where the person could be doing something bad. It could be endless parallel universes where the person is doing something good. You know. So you see, the all questions are left to the world where they have arose from. If you can see the geometry, literally as if like there's this is the thing about language. You can look at a building and see the building and be fascinated by that. And there's some people who look at a building and they're like, I want to see the blueprint. And when they see the blueprints, the secrets of the building are revealed. So it's as if just the interest to wonder about the blueprint of your own intelligence. For if our minds, if like octopus, their skin is like, they communicate their mind through changing the color of their skin. That means the color of their skin changing is their language. So if human beings, suddenly the inside, like imagine our skin color could change when we were nervous, or when we were angry, or when we were whatever. Do you know? That means what was within, if it could not be hidden, everybody has enough memories of efficiency and inefficiency that we can just fight and brand the system as the whole system is inefficient or the whole system is efficient. That means it's as if they asked the pilot that is the present pilot, the pilot that is like attention as a moment of being. They asked the pilot, the presence of the moment, where are you piloting to? And we are taking what worked in the past and piloting it into the future. And I will say it that there has never been an opportunity on a massive level for 8 billion human beings to share beyond their sensory. It's as if like, imagine we have like, sociologists who are looking at fascinated by the behavior of people in society, and imagine there were some people, some mystic sociologists that they were fascinated by the behavior prior to the behavior of the body. What is going on in the inner realms? Like, can you imagine if 8 billion people wrote books about how their experience of their own mind, which only they can know, is? Do you know how much people would learn? We would be shocked of the parallels of similarity, therefore more and more getting clues that there is a collective. It's like our minds are like a 3D field, our bodies are like particles in a 2D ever-changing river. And so I would say there is no wake up. There is no up and down at some point on a sphere hovering in the middle of nowhere. You know? It's as if a group of philosophers were hanging around, you know, and you know, the scientist, let's say, came to the philosopher and was like, the sky is up, it's up there, and the philosophers would be like, oh my god, get out of here. Mystery should not be left from the table of the person's mind. Any system that makes your wonder less is pretty much like, literally like, you're in the jaws of some ideological system. It's like, free yourself from language, you know. That's why I'm very playful with it. It wasn't that I was always playful and to some degree silly with language. It was just when I realized its hollowness, you know, I've had moments where I've realized the sky is its own owner. The sky cannot be named. The sky cannot be named. Maybe my next book should be pen, a pen that hoped for more ink. The sky cannot be named is like, I would say that's the slogan for the era of advanced communication. That is the, I would say, epitome of truth, ideological truth. It's too big for the small to brand it, and it's too big to just be the small, to be branded as small. So we're piloting between modes. Just think about it, like our heart, the inhalation and exhalation of the breath even. That's a good metaphor. We inhale, we exhale, you know? The heart contracts and reverse. It's just things are kind of like in the middle of an implosion and explosion, kind of like going back and forth. Anyways, guys, I guess I can bring the talk, land the talk. Let's say that humanity decided to make the Three Musketeers happy. Okay, and so we decided to have all systems do a reality check where they implement this one for all for one algorithm. And that means it's like you could be whatever businessman. You just implement this Three Musketeer, implement the Three Musketeer algorithm, and any system updates. Any system. I could look at anything and this algorithm works. You could see how from the overall we deduce, we look at the detail. From the general to the specific, from the specific to the general, and the human psychology is animated. So, perhaps human psychology must be treated as an endlessly open system. Energy maybe doesn't have a personality, so it's totally collective. Presence is totally a possibility, collective intelligent presence, even regardless of technology or not. The world is a strange enough place for our eyes to turn endlessly. So after tasting infinity, we may come back to duality to re-strategize towards what to do with the infinite game. Because for humanity, it's a finite game. Like our whole value systems are derived because we're gonna die one day. They're like, hey man, why are you doing what you're doing? It's like, it's gonna end, bro. You know. So you're left to using whatever you're given. That means there's no such thing as, again, stupidity or intelligence. You know, there is just I would say stupidity or being smart. There is just intelligence, never before it having been here, and it just occurring, right? So everything is just a level of geometrical expressionism. Then it's as if, like, from a higher plateau, we're wondering. So we're constantly oscillating between the known and the unknown, and we're like, why are ancient books paradoxical? It's like, because the whole world is. We're in a double-edged universe. And at least we have access to what is wielding attention. We're wielding a little bit of attention. That means there may be beings, individual beings on planets where their attention real estate is like universal. That means it's like, it doesn't matter where they are on the planet, their attention is going beyond the atmosphere. Through the wilderness of the sincerity at the face of the presence of the unknown, the true, your own, your truth can free you only if the truth is first freed by you. That means it's as if the truth is, imagine like someone who is about to go, and it's like somebody's like, don't leave, like they're holding their jacket, you know? The truth is like, I have to go in order to come back. You see, some things in life, it's literally like, we gotta even do what birds are doing. They build a nest, then they risk, then they fly out of their nest and they go. So we should treat human identity as just this ever-growing snowball, do you know? Where it's as if there's these birds, you know, these, let's say, and a bunch of birds are constantly bringing like somehow mini snowballs on their back, or somehow bringing snow and like hitting this rolling snowball as it's going with more snow or whatever. You know what I mean? Or somehow pushing it. I'm just saying, like, we are centered in our humanity, and we access the wisdom of the central sun. And I've probably not in this episode, I've written a chapter in my science fiction, which I might share at the end, actually, but or not. We are as free as we can be. And the meaning of that statement belongs to the ears of many years. Language is a technology that in our current state we have the best use of. You know, we don't know if, like, animals behind their eyes, they have memory. Like in yogic ideology, I believe it was in the Puranas, where there was a certain yogi that had done something wrong and incarnated as a deer. legit like as a deer, but his memory was accessible. Because he had been kind-hearted, his memory retained, like in the next life. So he had the memory of a human being, this advanced yogi, in this previous life, but in a what do you call it? Sorry, no. He had a deer's body in his next lifetime. He remembered all his lifetimes. I think that was how it was written in it. The Puranas are these ancient texts, and you can say Vedic thought, yogic thought. So animals could be minds that are not animals. So that means animals maybe have the urge to behave like humans, but their body is not human. Potentially, I'm just saying in a philosophical view. It's only in philosophy where impossible is nothing. They told the philosopher it's impossible, and he's like, tell me a joke I haven't heard before. The journey, the efficient journey of 8 billion points of sight. And each point has their own view, but through efficient strategy and eagle vision looking from the sky. This is the moment, guys. The body is a noun. The mind is a verb. And what we are is neither a verb or a noun. Our eyes, the eyes are not, sight is neither a noun or a verb. Both are found in it though. So by this mere observation, sight could never be an object and subject, and we have seen ourselves. We have never seen anything, in a sense. So the mystery is still left. It's as if we haven't seen the true face of our world before even wanting to see the true face of our nature. Philosophy is really for multidimensional beings. If a person doesn't have multidimensional compassion, we are not life forms. We are life beyond forms. Anyways, guys, that's the end of the talk. I'll open it up to Q&A, and somebody wanted poetry. Yeah, we can read a poem. And you know, some people, maybe they look at the sky and see like a sunset or a sunrise and they see its beauty. But some people like the sky because it bows to no man, ideologically. It's like an infinite energy cannot be individualized, if it is to be infinite first. That means we're left with the chicken or egg situation. Were we collective first, then individual? Were we individual first, then collective? Immaterialists believe we were collective first, then individual. And we were individual first before we were collective. And this pattern, again, like a sine wave or a cosine wave, but like any wave, just it oscillates. So there is no right and wrong. It's a roller coaster ride. And so to actually know in this modern era for the advanced communicator is something where the direct experience is activated but not over glorified to move in the outer realms with the illusion of the inner realms. That means there's some people who they leave some time for thinking and they leave some time for acting or like living or moving, right? And what I mean by this is that the first strategy is give yourself endless time to come up with a strategy. The second strategy, I would say, is find a strategy that can never lose, because we don't want to waste our soul's eternal time, you know? It's like the only answer. What time is it for a soul? It's time to wake up. That's the only watch that a soul can wear is the watcher within. That's the only way the waves of the ego can, in some sense, it's like the being has to be able to pilot. It's as if like before you can play the instrument well, you gotta hold the instrument well. After you've held it well, you gotta define the space of your ability to move. And then you gotta, after some point, get experiences of how your own arm can move when playing the instrument. So literally, its mastery is a journey where different dimensions of the whole same experience are being processed until they're attained. Because if we were multidimensional, we would treat this world like an empty canvas that we can design the most incredible things. Anytime the world is not seen as an opportunity, suffering's voice becomes louder than what the future deserves. There's a poetry collection I wrote in 2016. I'm just going to read one poem from it, and this poem, Farian's Arrival, is science fiction. So it's a science fiction book I'm working on. I'm working on a trilogy. And anyway, Farian is if you could say in this story I have generated, I don't want to give in too much information from it, but I'll just say Farian is the god, and he's like this ego god, where it's very, I'll tell you this, each of his feathers are a universe. And so the whole story, this is something outside of any science fiction I've shared so far, is that maybe in one episode I've talked about this, but like, the idea is that I created a book where I was like instead of having the hero's journey obsessively sabotage every potential to have a new story, you know, I thought, what if the hero's journey could never fail? What if the audience knew from the beginning, okay, that the hero could never fail, and the hero could also know he could never fail? That means the hero, there was no, I thought of what would it be like to have the main character of a story be, what's the word I'm looking for? Pretty much the character's name is Farda, and he goes to Feria. It's a metaphysical divine union, but in a totally science fiction context. Anyways, the words would speak for themselves when the books will come out, hopefully soon. But anyways, the poem is called Ferian's Arrival. In the far distance, let's actually find a good song for this. Okay, there we go. Automatically the song changed. In the far distance of a memory, finding birth in new eyes. What is numerable about the attendance of attention? Philosophy deserves public access, for who does sight serve but the seer? It is okay for all words to be written into worlds. But never forget the reader that is indefinite. Avoiding the crevice suggests you're too fat to pass. In the edge of a new diet, a new health is found. As Ferian arrives, so has art been put to work. In the collapse of all that you know, welcome a new cosmos. Of all that you know, welcome a new cosmos. What else can life force do? Just keep the door open. Of course, guys, the whole point of all these talks out here is that realize you're not a thought, you're not language, you're an observer. That means the human being might celebrate different birthdays, but there is one me when it comes to who you are. You know, the idea of me, like in quotations, the word me. Free yourself from a language that was just a part of the percentage of the whole moment. You see, it's as if like we have the word freedom, and we have the word mind. Let's say the words mind and body. The mind is free, the body is shackled to the elemental reality, shackled to the elemental reality. So in some sense, the mind is the heaven. The body is the earth, and the misuse of the mind of the body is heaven. So our minds, they don't have an edge. They're not an object the sun is too fixing with them. You know, this is the era we have come to. This is the last thing I'm going to say before I end. The old world, the ancient world told us we are free. The modern world, the slogan has changed to, or I would say, I would say it this way. Imagine in the ancients, they were like, be free. In the modern times, the same teaching with an added dimension is be free instantly. Because if the freedom is not instant, it's not unconditional. That means in the inner realms at least. In the outer realms, the person has to, of course, journey through, like climb a mountain to achieve something. But in the inner realms, the freedom can be instant. So either be instantly free or... Can you imagine, like... Seek unconditional freedom in the inner realms, and you will be surprised at how much, before a person even tries to attain an ability, how much the ability is in the world. That means it's like, can we say a surfer is using the ability? Can we say the ocean waves are the surfer's ability? No, the surfer's ability is just moving the surfboard. So we as an I thought, we as an unknown viewer are viewing an I thought. We're surfing as a thought in an experiential ocean, and we're suffering when the thoughts don't relate to the experience. It's unnecessary. Freedom from language is the roar of the advanced civilization. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'll be on Discord for those interested.